So, a group of skinny, stanky, homeless-looking hippies sporting short shorts, backpacks, and voracious appetites walk into a small-town bar. I know that sounds like the start of a bad joke, but it happens every year when thousands of hikers attempt to complete a long trail in one shot. It could be a disaster, but the relationship between long-distance hikers and the locals of the small towns we pass through is overwhelmingly positive, so I'm excited to share some of what I've learned over thousands of trail miles. First, some labels for context, although later I'm going to encourage you to reject them. Long-distance hikers are generally younger, between graduation and career, or they're older, retired, and the kids have left home. They tend to lean left and often come from larger population centers. We like to see ourselves as grand adventurers on some epic quest, but from the outside, we're sometimes seen as homeless slackers or entitled partiers. Trail towns are typically rural and oriented toward agriculture or ranching. The locals are generally families raising children or people of retirement age. They tend to lean right, and it's not uncommon for members of a family to stay in the same town for generations. I think most see themselves as hardworking providers focused on family and community. But from the outside, they're sometimes seen as uneducated rednecks or hillbillies. So at first glance, and especially given all the negative labels, you'd think we wouldn't get along. But we have a lot in common too. Long-distance hikers make up our own community, and like the residents of small towns, we're pretty tight, looking out for each other on trail and off. Both groups are strong and hardworking. It takes fortitude to walk from Mexico to Canada, just as it does to run a ranch, much less successfully raise a family. We're all resourceful, used to making do with less and getting more mileage from the little we do have. So how does this relationship work? Well, we have needs, a lot of them. For as much as we like to think otherwise, once we hit town, we are the neediest needers in Needville. We're filthy, starving, and exhausted. Our clothes are rank, food bags near empty, our gear fails, and shoes start falling apart. So we spend, and we're not going broke swiping those cards in the woods. All these spending on restaurants, lodging, services, and supplies provides a boost to the local economy, and it's also our in. As hikers with so many needs and locals benefiting from our spending, it behooves us all to get along, maybe look past the negative labels, and talk to each other. But we don't really talk anymore. I walk into a town with phone service and everyone's staring at screens like zombies, to the point they're ignoring whoever they're with, much less the people around them they don't know. And when we do talk, we tend to talk only to those people we think similar to us, and we are all the poorer for this. Meeting new people, especially those we think to be different from us somehow, can be an eye, mind, and heart-opening experience. And long-distance hikers walk into opportunities to do this with every town. Whenever I meet someone, I learn something new, whether it's directions to the laundromat or what the local wildflowers are, and I love that. I mean, sure, I can usually just check my phone to find what I need, and sometimes I do and just leave it at that. But the last time I asked someone where I could find breakfast, when I saw him again later, he shared some of the area's mining history with me. I could have looked that up too, but I never would have thought to. And frankly, that's not having to spend the little bit of town time I get between walking 20 to 30 miles a day. But I made the time and was happy to hear all about it while we sat together, a Wyoming cowboy and a California hiker chick. Because of him, my trail experience was enriched, and I saw the town and the people in it with greater appreciation and understanding. You never really know what the outcome of an interaction will be. Usually it's just one and done, but sometimes amazing things happen. Last month, we were walking through a giant basin in Colorado, and an older couple stopped to chat for a few minutes. About an hour later, the skies opened up, and we found ourselves in the middle of a pretty terrifying thunderstorm with no cover anywhere, and we were the tallest things out there. Within 20 minutes, the husband came back, warning of more storms coming, offered to take us in for the night. This couple fed us, let us shower, gave us a bed, and the next morning dropped us right back where we'd been picked up. But while we were there, we learned a ton about them, their family, the history of the basin, all kinds of stuff. Then they weren't just townies anymore, and our impressions of them as just stereotypical upper-middle-class white people was blown. These two had led fantastic, amazing lives. It was an amazing experience that never would have happened had we not been out there and open and willing to talk. A few weeks ago, I met the manager of a little motel in Chama, New Mexico. This lady single-handedly turned that place from a flop house to a sweet place to stay. But she said she'd been unhappy and was thinking of leaving until Continental Divide hikers started walking through. Even though we're only seasonal, the sense of connection she feels with us was instrumental in her decision to stay. Our encounters with locals are typically brief, but they can be powerful and mutually beneficial. Usually, we never know what kind of impact we'll have on each other. Okay, so say you have neither the time nor the inclination to walk thousands of miles just to hang out with people you don't know. What does any of this have to do with you? Well, I was a hard case. Before starting this adventure life, I worked in social services, including investigating child abuse. All I saw was the worst in people, and it made me cynical and jaded. By the time I quit, I hated everyone. Hiking was merely the medium for me to be open to people again, especially by throwing me into the kinds of scenarios that started this talk because of all the needs I had in town. Sure, it has plenty of other benefits. Time alone in nature is incredibly healing. Facing down bears, snakes, and all the spiders has made me pretty fearless, and I finally get my money's worth at all-you-can-eat buffets. But the time with people has been the most vital to my personal growth, so you can avoid the blisters, hypothermia, sharing your water with cows, and still have your life enriched. I've met countless people through the trails. Most I'll never see again, but sometimes a superficial chat, like where to find the best barbecue, has led to more, and my network of friends has grown exponentially with people from all walks of life. They were all strangers once, just like most of the people in your lives were too at one point. Fear of rejection is our biggest barrier to meeting new people, so chatting up strangers can be intimidating, but there are plenty of ways to make it easier. For starters, you can slow down. It's amazing how great it feels to fully stop, take a deep breath, and really look around. It brings you fully into the present. It also relaxes you enough to be more open. I mean, when was the last time you willingly talked to a stranger when you were so frazzled you couldn't catch your own breath? I don't want to talk to anyone when I'm that stressed out. Then there's the labels. Whenever we're faced with someone new, the primal part of our brain associated with survival immediately jumps to assess whether or not this person is a threat. We also start assigning them labels: male, female, black, white, brown, purple, rich, poor, so that we can make sense of them and proceed accordingly. This is a natural, almost involuntary process. The problem is these labels all come burdened with all kinds of stereotypes, so then we just see a townie or a slacker, and not a unique individual who also happens to really like hiking or who lives in a trail town. We haven't made sense of him so much as pigeonholed him, and that's not particularly fair. At this point, he hasn't even opened his mouth yet to prove us right or wrong. So it's a good idea to shelve those labels before saying hello. I was extremely anxious about hiking the Pinoti, which is the longest trail in Alabama and Georgia. I mean, here I am, a little brown chick in a dress rolling around the rural South all by myself. Well, what could possibly go wrong? Well, how about a tornado? Yes, I had no idea Alabama even got tornadoes. But when this tornado was coming, a man I'd met before I started the trail picked me up to stay with his family, and we had a blast. I went to my first Cracker Barrel, I ate my first grit, and I made them some real tacos for Taco Tuesday because I'm pretty sure Alabama tacos would just make me angry or sad. By the time they dropped me back on trail, we had become family. A little further up, I came to a campground that was where the trail was closed because of tornado damage. I didn't have any phone service or any idea when the trail would be open again, so I was kind of panicking. While I was wandering around looking for a ranger, I ran into another man I'd met while he was out doing trail maintenance. There you are. I was so surprised to see him. I was just like, we've been looking for you. Come on over. Turns out he and his wife had come from where the tornado hit hardest, just to park their fifth wheel for me to stay in because of the trail closure. And they actually left me in it alone, so you can have your privacy. And then they said, the fridge is full, eat whatever you want. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, who are these people? I still get emotional whenever I think about their amazing generosity. Needless to say, any concerns I'd had about hiking Alabama were completely destroyed, along with my own prejudices about people from the South. It's impossible to blanketly label an entire region of people as all being this or that negative thing when you've personally met some of them and experienced the exact opposite. So the next time you're in a new place and you're looking for recommendations, you have an amazing opportunity to connect and meet with new and different people if you can just curb that initial impulse to whip out the phone. Sure, it's faster, and it ain't rocket science. But you can know everything there is to know about rocket science, and that still does you precisely zero good when what you really want to know is where to score a great breakfast. For that, ask some locals. Most people love where they live and are happy to share what they think is special about it. Frankly, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a town so small it didn't even have phone service. I don't know where I am relative to where I need to be to get my town chores done. Even though I'm dirty and disheveled, almost always someone will come and ask if I need help. I call this the vulnerability factor. The body language and expression associated with my state of unsurety make me more approachable. It's disarming, and that's fantastic. I don't even have to start the conversation. And once someone approaches me offering help, I already know they're willing to engage. Then there's the magic of not knowing. I call it magic because it's kind of a unicorn these days. Not knowing causes anxiety and stress. So when we want to know something, the impulse is just search it and voila, 50,000 results and a sigh of relief. But what if you can't search? Maybe you have no signal or the phone's dead. Do you ask someone for what you need then? Most of us have had to do this at some point, and it almost always turns out just fine because most people genuinely enjoy helping. Approaching someone from the open position of not knowing is even more disarming than the vulnerability factor because not only are you now the initiator, you give someone else the opportunity to feel good, so your odds are great. So the next time you're curious about or looking for something, take a deep breath and look around to see who you might ask. You never know what kind of magic will happen. That said, though, don't let me mislead you into thinking that every recommendation you get is going to be great, because they're not. But the human connection has been made, and the rest is just part of the adventure. Once the ice is broken, there are a couple of ways you can help make the conversation go well. Treat everyone with dignity and respect, from CEOs to stinky hikers. You never know who you're talking to. That motel manager in Chama used to live in Hawaii and broker international business deals. I used to take people's kids for a living, and now I mostly live in the dirt. But at the end of the day, none of that really matters because we are all human beings. People shine when they feel well regarded. A positive outcome is almost guaranteed. Now, that's not to say that I like everyone or agree with everything they say or do. Not at all. I simply try to remember that most people are doing the best they can and treat them accordingly. The best way to make someone feel valued is to listen to them. This is so easy to say and so hard to practice. We're all distracted and we have our own agendas. But if you've taken someone's time by choosing to have a conversation with them, you kind of owe them the courtesy of hearing what they actually have to say. They don't get that time back. This goes equally for a stranger on the street as it does your partner, coworker, or that fellow hiker you just told about your nail fungus who now wants to tell you about his chafing issue in detail. Sometimes you will want to rip your ears off. Other times you'll emerge incredibly enriched. But if you've made the other person feel heard, you ultimately both win every time. Once you start talking to someone you think is different from you, just to find out that they're actually pretty okay, the caricatures and stereotypes attached to the labels you've assigned them begin to erode, and you start finding out how much you have in common. I like a story my friend Papa Joe told me. He and his wife Terry have been trail angels on the PCT for over 20 years, and they've hosted thousands of hikers. One night, they had the owner of a Major League Baseball team and a young homeless couple in the house, and they were talking about how the trail is a great equalizer. Papa Joe's comment, "By the time you get here, you all stink the same." Our ability to understand and feel compassion for one another grows when we start looking beyond these labels that create artificial distance and differences. The current trend of dismissing people whose ideas and opinions differ from our own is distressing, and there's little to gain by insulating ourselves in comfy bubbles surrounded by people just like us. I don't care who I'm talking to. I can find some common ground to build a personal relationship within minutes, but it's taken practice. It helps to know that every single person I meet is a unique individual with a life just as complex and nuanced as my own. By building bridges through interaction, through positive talking, we build bridges, which is exactly what we need more of right now. Bridges, not comfy bubbles. So start with neutral common ground, like asking for directions or someone's favorite restaurant. You never know where it'll lead. You will learn stuff. You may make a new friend. You may change your thinking about those people or inspire that change in someone else's thinking about you. With each positive interaction, we build these bridges, which is exactly what we need. After all, my challenge to you is to look around and strike up a conversation with someone you imagine to be entirely different from yourself. Try it today and see what happens. After all, if a bunch of suburban slackers and rural rednecks can get along, even become friends, who can't? Thank you.